I'm Jordan.
And I'm Rosanna.
And on this podcast, we explore how to take life off autopilot
and relentlessly pursue a life worth living together. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 5 of the Relentless Pursuit podcast, Confidence and Courage, an interview with Trish Blackwell.
Trish Blackwell is an expert at empowering people to get past self-doubt, overcome self-limiting beliefs, and perform at their highest levels. Confidence coach to Olympic and professional athletes, Ironman champion CEOs, high-achieving entrepreneurs, and cultural influencers. She's been featured by TLC, Entrepreneur, and Elite Daily as one of the top confidence coaches in the world. Her approach to confidence has equipped and empowered an audience of over 3 million people worldwide through her top-ranked podcast, The Confidence Podcast, her books, her coaching, and her online confidence university, The College of Confidence, also considered the most encouraging place on the internet.
Trish is a wife, mom, runner, surfer, snowboarder, and Ironman triathlete. She's also a Christian. She equips and empowers people to confidently show up in the world through thought work, through resisting the hustle culture, and through confidence based in the Bible.
We enjoyed our conversation with Trish and learned so much, and we know you will as well. So here is our conversation with Trish Blackwell. All right, Trish Blackwell, welcome to the Relentless Pursuit podcast. How are you?
I am doing fabulous. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be hanging out with you guys and talking about confidence.
Yeah, we're excited to learn a lot from you as well. I think in some of our prior conversations, we've like lightly broached the topic of confidence, but have never focused on it. So I think we're most excited about just like learning from someone who is very familiar with confidence and being able to walk us through some of the core things that we can learn.
Yeah.
So we want to start at square one and let's just start with the definition. Like how would you define confidence?
So it's such a multi-layered definition, but let's start with the first layer. And I believe confidence is the decision that you are enough, or that you have enough within you to show up and be courageous. Because it's sort of this chicken versus the egg kind of thing. Well, are you confident because you have success in what you do, or did you get the success because you showed up and chose to be confident? So obviously in sports, people gain in confidence as they continue to have more success. And so you can be very confident in one area, but not necessarily in another. And so the core of confidence, it's a decision. I believe it's a thought pattern, because I want people to challenge themselves as they listen to this conversation, to question where they're not like we all have areas where we're really confident in and areas where we might tiptoe around or avoid. And that's where we can actually say, I have everything within me to feel confident in that area as well, because my confidence, if we really think about it, it is a feeling. We feel confident, we say that, but I really believe it's a thought. It's a thought pattern. It's a thought process. It's a mental muscle. And so what's so great about that is you don't have to feel confident to be confident. You just have to think confident in order to create the feeling of being confident. And then you can act confident. And then when you show up that way, you get better results in life. Like things just work better. So it is also, I think it's also this decision to believe that you matter in the world. Confidence is saying, I matter, I have purpose, and I'm going to choose to show up with courage. Sometimes people misalign confidence to be like, well, you got to really know that you're good to go. No, actually confidence, it comes hand in hand. Confidence and courage are besties. And so they go together. And you typically, there's always self-doubt with confidence. I teach my students that all we're looking for is majority share in your mind. 51%. If you're 51% confident and 49% of your brain about one thing is feeling self-doubt, you got enough. And just to trust that. I think sometimes there's this misconception that you have to be 100% confident, and that does not exist.
Well, especially in life, it's, even if you're prepared and you go into a situation, you're not gonna, depending on the scenario, there's so many uncertainties. And so even if you're confident, there's that other, that 49% where something could kind of swing your way that is not what you're thinking is going to happen, but you've got that little bit of leverage. Like, I've been in this situation, so I'll be able to handle it.
Yeah, there's always going to be curveballs. Yeah.
My mind is already going in multiple directions. So I think thinking of this as what was the very first thing you said? The confidence is a mindset.
It's a thought pattern that you decide that you're enough.
Yes.
And able to show up as enough, even if you are quote unquote in lack, right?
See,
If you don't know the next steps, you still say, I'll be capable.
yeah, because I think it's so like we so like tether it to success, and that's actually like the second question.
Yeah.
We're gonna, but even like without success, or without like tying it to a task, right? Just having confidence in who you are, just absent of anything else. Like I think that's an important first step that already, like you just saying that makes me realize I kind of skipped that step and was already thinking about what tasks can I apply my confidence towards, what productivity does that lead me to do. But that's almost like putting the cart before the horse, maybe.
I would say confidence is also the belief to say, all right, you look at your goal, you look at your vision, you look at your job, or you wake up and you just look at the day. You say, what is my top priority? And it is, my job today is to be Trish Blackwell. That's it. Like, how can this Trish Blackwell that's showing up here today with you guys be a better version of myself than I was yesterday? Like, not in replicate of someone else, or intimidation, like some sort of watered down version of anyone else, but how do I just go be Trish? And then you look at anything else and ahead of you and you go, all right. And I really encourage listeners to use their full name, the third person. Go be Trish Blackwell. You insert your Trish Blackwell. You are not Trish Blackwell. Maybe you are. There are some others of us out there, but you just say, my job today is to show up fully. Confidence is that decision that I don't have to know it all, but I'm just going to show up fully and know that I'm growing. It's the growth mindset that we often talk about, right? In personal development.
Yeah. I have, sorry, did you?
No, for me, I just feel like confidence has really happened like in my mid to late 30s. So I'm 38 now, almost 39. I've spent like so many years worried about who I thought I should be or what other people expected me to be. And then as I got a little bit older, I figured like I no longer cared what they thought. And I know it was not comparing myself to what other people were doing or if I fit their mold. But how can people get to that place sooner? I feel like a lot of people will say like in their 30s, it clicked, but how do we like, people in their late 20s that are listening, like, how do we help them move there sooner so that they're not trying to be someone else until they figure out who they really are?
Well, maybe, but I want to add to that too. And you can speak better to this, like that's our story, but is that typical, or like, what are some of the barriers that people have regardless of their age?
Great question, because you're right. A lot of the self-discovery does happen in your 30s, but there's a lot of it happens in your 40s and your 50s. It depends entirely on the people you've had in your life and a lot of the circumstances. So to anyone in your 20s, 30s, 40s, I've even had people in their 70s go, I've never heard this before. And it's changed them, and they've revitalized what they think their future is the freedom to be yourself. Is giving yourself permission to trust who you were created to be, to trust that the world needed you, and that there's a specific you. No one else has ever existed like you. And if you are you, it's apples to oranges when you compare yourself to anyone else. And and that's why I love the simplicity of my job is just to be Trish. Because then I'm like, because let me tell you what I used to be the queen of was comparison. Like I was a Division I full scholarship athlete, like competition, like competitive spirit is like overly thick in me. I'm an Enneagram 3 type A. Like, let me just like, I love productivity and doing and comparing, and it's wonderful. And there's a healthy version of that, and there's an unhealthy version of it. And so I used to justify, well, I'm only comparing myself to these other people because it's making me better. And in the reality, I was missing a lot of my own life and trying to be what other people were. So first, I think there's anyone, if wherever you are, if you're struggling with comparing or not feeling enough, or wondering if you're behind. I know I hear a lot of, I'm just behind in life. Maybe I'm further, I should be further along, whether it's I'm supposed to be married and I don't even have a boyfriend, or I should have 2.3 kids now and I am struggling with pregnancy, or I thought I'd have scaled my business to 6 figures, but it's not. Like, there's so many stories of that. And it goes, but says who? Like, according to whose timeline? We have all of these arbitrary timelines. And I think what I'm getting at is when you realize that your journey is an adventure, and just give yourself permission to explore it. It makes it fun. And I think we put so much pressure on having to figure it out. And instead, I want to invite people to look at this as, this is an opportunity to be childlike again, carefree, going back to when you felt most alive. What are the things that made your soul sing? When you have moments of margin in your life, what do you think about? I think so often we don't have the confidence to go out there and go, today I'm going to be Trish Blackwell, because most people don't know who that Trish Blackwell is. I know it took me until I was in my late 20s to know who Trish was. I mean, I went through an entire identity crisis. And so one, it's an invitation that how do you make a friend? You make a friend by spending time with them, by shared experiences. And so I really think the core of confidence is knowing yourself, understanding yourself, spending time with yourself, being kind to yourself. And a lot of women in our culture, we are brought up in a way where we go, if I'm nice to everyone else, but I'm really tough on myself. And we think that's okay. But it's bullying, but in this like secret way that's super self-critical, super self-pressuring, super perfectionistic. And you end up, how can you be friends with somebody who's constantly criticizing you? Right. So we sort of have to kind of start from scratch and go, I'm making a decision to be friends with myself. And who is that person? Okay. Get to work to figuring that out. Right. It just takes time. So you could also relate to some people I work with that want to work on body confidence. It's the same scenario though. If you spent 10, 20, 30 years saying ugly things to yourself about your body in the mirror or comparing your body to somebody else's, yeah, we got to start fresh and make a decision. It starts with a decision to say, I'm going to be friends with my body. How does that look? I don't know. Let's figure that out.
Yeah. So I think that, like I said, when we think about confidence, we often think about like how that manifests with like a particular task or like a job or a competition. But a lot of what you're saying is like, it's this internal mindset that we have. We liked your episode about affirmations as well. And so I plan to bring this up later, but since we're kind of intersecting with that, I've read about affirmations and have done them from time to time. A quick story. I don't know if I told you this story either, but this was right before COVID. Mm-hmm. And we were going to like shut down our building. I'm in education. So I was going to give a presentation to our staff, which is a few hundred people. And I was nervous. I was like, what does one say in this scenario? But then, this has not been a habit for me. I'd actually like it for it to be, but then I started like just trying to make myself feel better by saying like, hey, like you've presented before, like people trust you, you've got this, those kinds of things. And then I felt like way better by the time I actually like took the stage and addressed the staff. And so like, that was my own experience, like just feeling even in a single moment, like the way that affirmation worked. So can you just briefly speak to like how we talk to ourselves and what habit, if any, like that kind of dialogue should take?
Absolutely. So we can call it affirmations. You can call it proclamations. You can call it declarations, or you can even just call it self-coaching. Because what you did is you self-coached like a boss there, right? Like, and it's funny. So I think people know this is a good thing that I could do. And then we feel all kinds of weird about talking to ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. We're like, I shouldn't be the type of person. Look, I'm like speaking to hundreds of people. I shouldn't have to talk to myself. But the reality is that is the mark of excellence. That is, so an affirmation or slowing down and realizing I've got some sloppy thinking going on. I've got a mismanaged mindset because my fear is louder than my confidence right now. Or you call it faith. Faith and confidence are the same thing, right? It's this faith that I'm going to be okay. So I just need to reframe that thought. And one of the ways to reframe it is you talk back to it. It really does bridge the gap to what we were saying before. You were a friend to yourself. Because if you have a friend and they're like, I don't know, like I'm probably gonna say the wrong thing, and you're standing next to your friend and you really believe in your friend, you'll be like, dude, you got this. You would, as a friend, would have said exactly what you said to yourself. And so I like to invite people into this self-talk, having conversations with themselves by normalizing it. And then by saying, just pretend you're being a friend to yourself. Or if they listen to my podcast, they're used to my voice. Hey, pretend it's me. Pretend I'm in your ear and it's just Trish talking back to you. Like however it makes you comfortable, so you get over that hurdle of thinking it's weird. Let it be weird. It's wonderful and it's game changing. I can tell you, Jordan, I was in the same kind of boat as you for a while. I was thinking, affirmations are good. This stuff's all good. good to do. I'll do it when I think about it. Yeah. All in. I know the research. And then there's a difference between dabbling and doing. Mm-hmm. And when I started doing, everything changed. Like my business income grew by 100%. Like my results in my marriage, the way my husband and I felt connected in our marriage changed. How I felt, the little areas of growth that I was working on, all of a sudden I had the breakthroughs because I committed to doing affirmations as a discipline. And for me, it's just the extent of, I write at the end of my journaling every day, one affirmation, customized to what I need for the day based on that journaling. Sometimes I do like you, sometimes it's like kind of a emergency, got to talk myself up, of course. And then I go and I repeat every now and then. There's a little like bonus time where I'll do 5 repeats of something that I really am trying to go into. But man, things change. And what I love about an affirmation is that all it is it's affirming what you want to be true. You go back and you remind yourself, no, this is what I believe. And a belief, confidence is belief, right? Belief in yourself, belief in your potential, belief that in sports, you can outtouch somebody if you're in the pool or outrun them at the line. Like it's just that edge of belief. If you take 2 people who are equally capable athletically, the person who wins is the person who believes in themselves more. That's the confidence when we apply it to a task. And so you go, okay, so I get curious with my people, how do we create belief? Well, you create a belief is just a thought you've repeated over and over and over. What is an affirmation? It's like, oh, okay, that's it. So affirmations are my proclamations over the beliefs I want to have and the person I want to become. And then it's like, not weird.
The 5-minute journal daily in the mornings. And that has a spot for an affirmation every day. And at first that was like really hard, but it really changes your mindset in terms of like who you are and what you're capable of. And I saw that once I was doing that daily, there was a big shift in my business and in my attitude towards it, and even being able to like celebrate my success in it. And it's like, you really don't think it matters, but it really does, on how your brain is wired to then produce and achieve what you're calling out in yourself.
Like a 1 minute, that 1 minute, it's mind blowing, isn't it? 1 minute can change your whole day.
I have a story that I am hoping to throw a wrinkle in this too. So when I was younger, I was playing basketball with my dad on the driveway, and he just asked me, he's like, do you know why Michael Jordan is as good as he is? And, you know, I probably threw out some, like, I don't know. He's good. He practices a lot. He's like, yeah. He's like, but he is more confident than his opponent. I'm like, okay, thanks, Dad. Confidence. Got it. So the next day I'm playing with my friends on the driveway, and I'm thinking to myself, like, all right, I got to be confident. I am good. My name is also Jordan. I got this. And then my friends but I was not good. My friends would steal the ball from me, right? I'd take a shot and I would miss it. And I'm like, my dad doesn't know what he's talking about. So like, I was confident and it didn't manifest into anything. So like, what was the missing ingredient in that story? What are some of the other habits of confidence, or just elements that collaborate with confidence to help younger Jordan make that basketball shot, or to, you know, whatever metaphor is more suited to.
I love that. I can expand upon that hypothetically of saying that day you dabbled and you played with it in the same way someone does an affirmation the first time, like, I mean, I feel better. And then, all right. I mean, it kind of helped. Whereas after 3 months of doing it, you're like, I won't go through a day without my affirmation. So it was the commitment. Confidence comes with commitment. Mm-hmm. And the commitment, and a willingness to look like a fool. Like, you've got to be willing to know there's going to be failure. I'm going to go and play. I'm going to be confident. They're going to take the ball from me. I will not let it sway my swagger. I'm going to show up the next day and be like, y'all, you left and I stayed and practiced an hour because I needed some better skill. Like, so the confidence also is a realistic self-analysis of, well, my mind was right, but my skill wasn't. Cool. Get to work doing the skill. And then tomorrow I'm going to show up. I can still have a mental edge. Even if they're still superior players than me, I can still show up on the driveway and know that I am confident I'm a better player than I was yesterday. So that's when I think we look at commitment, and then digging deep and going, how can I can be confident in how I show up as long as I am committed to being better today than I was yesterday in some capacity. and just really dialing it in. I love that simplicity. One of my favorite things I tell my students in the College of Confidence is that extraordinary results happen by doing the ordinary things with extraordinary commitment. And it's like, all right, the confidence didn't work this time, but I'm still committed.
It's almost like confidence in the process, or confidence in your ability to grow.
It's in the process. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Our 3.5-year-old is very confident, super confident, celebrates his wins all the time. Like he has just that childlike, like, Mom, I pooped on the potty again. Like, he knows he can do it now. At what point, like, do we, like, from kids to adulthood, lose some of that confidence that, like, every time we do something, it's great? And, like, why is it that we tend to lose confidence as we grow older, or that we have to be constantly, like, reassured or even coached into thinking, like, yeah, you are this person? Why do we lose that?
So interesting, because I have a 4-year-old boy and a 6-year-old, almost 7-year-old girl. And I already you can see the age where it starts to change. There's a over awareness. I mean, it's our expanded awareness of others around us. And I think that's where it becomes critical that it's so easy to believe I'm just one of billions and there's nothing special. And my mom told me I was sparkly, and turns out everybody is. And there's this sort of, I think we lose our sense of vision for ourselves. And I think what you can do, whether you are parenting a 7 and 8-year-old, 10-year-old, 14-year-old, or you're finding you parenting yourself in your own self-coaching conversations, and you find yourself in your 30s, 40s, or 50s, it's saying, it's time to realign the fact that there's no one else in the world like me. And I can learn to pat myself on the back and be excited about pooping on the potty. Now, what is my version of pooping on the potty now? Like, what does that look like to me? For me as an adult, as far as adulting in life, you know what? My pooping on the potty this week was, we got our driveway resealed. Boom. Just one of those things you're supposed to check off your list, and you do. And I did it, right? Like, it's like, are you slowing down? Because we have so many things we're juggling, so much scheduling, so many moving pieces. And it's like, are you actually even pausing on the stuff that's not even that important? Driveway sealing, and just saying, well done, Trish, you're crushing it this week, right? You're crushing it as a manager of the house in the life, like, and just slowing down and acknowledging it. I think we sometimes go, well, yeah, you're supposed to, everyone does that. And we discount so much that we lose so much confidence that we can already give ourselves, that just comes from being like, man, it was good today. But yeah, I mean, it's just, but back to when does it break? It breaks when we start comparing ourselves and we desire to fit in. But if you know that you already always belong, then you'll be impervious to some of it.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And it makes me think of just like, there seems to be like almost like culturally, right? We do try to, especially with our kids, like make them feel like special and to celebrate those successes and to inculcate that confidence in them, or at least the confidence we have in them. But I wonder, we're kind of talking about that inflection point in youth. Is it possible from the adult end to have maybe too much confidence? Is there a point where it's like, look, you're a little disconnected from reality, like you're more confident in your abilities than your abilities actually are? So what's the relationship between like having a proper amount of confidence and self-reflection, or is there a point where it can become harmful, a little disconnected from reality?
So good. I think it becomes harmful if you don't surround yourself with mentors. If you don't have a coach, if you don't work with a therapist, if you're not working with somebody who's going to be honest and say, you're not up to snuff. So let's say somebody's, I don't know, a programmer, and they're like, I'm the best, like, you're not the GOAT. I see flaws here, here, and here. And this is not somebody to be on, and honesty with yourself, and then honesty with with somebody that could speak to you and challenge you to call you up to a higher standard. So I think it's really important that we surround ourselves with people who call us up to a higher standard, but also can lovingly say, yeah, that was good, but I think we can be even more excellent. So the pursuit of excellence versus being like, I got it. Like, I think the reason we can be confident, I think really, if we look at it, confidence, and the more you strengthen your confidence, the more it will grow. But then look, good for you. It becomes arrogance if you're overconfident, but if you grow and you're applying it in the way to have purpose and make a difference in this world, every way you next level up, you need a new level of confidence. The same way, let's say somebody's a public speaker. Great, you feel comfortable public speaking. Well, it's very different than when you go to a crowd of 200 people. Then it's very different to maybe you have to present in a mask because it's COVID, and right now you have to, how do you project your voice differently? That's a different level of confidence in your skill set. And now let's put you in a stadium with 20,000 people, and it's going to be a different level of confidence. So as long as you're next leveling your confidence and then applying it to your purpose, I think that's powerful. But if you're not honest, then it does become arrogance, and then it's dangerous. Yeah. Well, and the reality is you're the one that misses out on the deep fulfillment and satisfaction that comes from it.
Yeah. Yeah. I've done plenty of, fake it till you make it, like approaches and experiments. Yeah. But sometimes like I feel like I've missed, I'm the king of like, oh, I've got this, like, don't worry. Even if internally I'm like, all right, I don't know what I'm talking about here. Like I can at least project the confidence into and talk myself into doing the task. But I like what you say too, because being a friend to ourselves it seems like the most important first step. But I like what you say about having an external voice as well. And Rosanna's been that for me quite a bit. But I wonder, do you have I was going to ask about just like what role does like your spouse play in that, or just a significant other to be that voice for you?
I think it's huge to have that. My husband is amazing at that. And ever since we started dating, and I am type A, he is the most type B dude you're ever going to meet. And it's, at first I was like, we can't date. Like, I'm a morning person, he's a night owl. I was like, this is definitely not going to work, except that was fabulous for children, raising children. Ends up, you never know. But yeah, I think the most loving thing he's ever done for me is just to say over and over, you're a good bet. Because I'll, maybe I find a new mentor. Hey, it's going to cost us many thousands of dollars. Okay. You're a good bet. I have complete confidence that there's always going to be return on investment. I know you follow through. I see your work. I believe in this vision. So being a spouse, to support someone, to just listen and then reaffirm the vision that they have and reaffirm what their that is, and then continually encourage, or even he questions me a lot though. He does say, well, I think we could do this. And it seems like is this effective use of your time? And so participation is so critical. But I also think that it's so important to think about the people we grow in confidence by also encouraging others. Encouragement is such a huge part of it. And I would challenge anyone listening to ask yourself, who in your life was the most just encouraging mentor? Maybe it was a teacher, maybe it was a parent, maybe it was a coach. And think about how you felt when they would, they would just say, drop a bomb on you, like a positive bomb, like a whether you got this, or do you know what your actual potential is? I see you doing this. And I know for me, that person is my mom. She always, like, even in my late 20s, the Olympics would be on. She's like, Trish, you need to get a canoe. Like, I think you are built, your body is built. Cause I used to have Olympic dreams in swimming. And she was like, you're supposed to be up water. I was like, I forget what even they call it. It's upstream kayaking. And it was an Olympic sport now. She's like, you should go to the next Olympics. And I was like, Mom, first off, I'm almost 30. Secondly, I don't even kayak. But I love that she called me, the fact that she's like, if you want to do this, you could. That belief in that makes me walk around the gym like, I want to do that. I can't. Like that. And again, to some extent, there's nothing valid to that. Like, we have no skill to back that statement, but it's amazing what the gift of belief. Hey, if you commit to that and you work at that, I believe you got that we can give that. And when we start giving that, and we're generous in our belief in others, and we're generous in building up others within either, hey, casting into their vision, or saying, I see something different in you. Like, let's explore it. Just complimenting others, that boomerangs back in your own confidence, because you start having, you hear what you tell other people, and then your subconscious will hear that in relation to yourself. And it's just a beautiful gift. Your encouragement, I just really think it's critical that we can never underestimate the power of encouraging others and how that builds their confidence. And ultimately, in turn, it rebuilds ours. But also, even just thinking about the people in your past that have helped build yours to whatever place you found it has been a gift.
Do you think that people can really work on confidence by themselves, or do you think it's something that they need, like a coach or a mentor, or is that something a therapist can help with? Like, how can people seek that out?
Yeah,
if
I
you're looking to
absolutely
build
think
it.
you can do it. I absolutely think you can do it by yourself. Do I think you can go faster and get more accelerated specific results working with a coach? Yeah, absolutely. However, there are seasons where I think in solitude, you can make some deep growth if you're committed. So journaling, I mean, and there's an abundance of free resources. It's allocating the time and prioritizing it and doing your mindset work to go, yeah, I'm going to show up differently. So I think it's a combination. I think, yes, absolutely. You can do it on your own. Listen to podcasts, read the books, do the journaling, do your affirmations, show up differently, decide that you're going to be an improved version of yourself every day, and actually get very specific. Sometimes we don't have confidence because we don't actually know what we want. So we don't have a vision. Without vision, we perish, right? So you've got to go, what am I actually going for? A lot of people don't tap into their confidence because they kind of just settle for existing. Right. So there's a challenge there with that. But then also, if you want faster, more accelerated results, absolutely hook up with a coach, get into a program, go accelerate that. I think the right therapist could help that as well.
What about we talk about bad experiences, because sometimes maybe we start with confidence, but then we have a setback, or like reality kicks in and shows us like we don't have the skill. Like, how do we take a bad experience and turn that into a plus, or turn it into a positive, or overcome that hurdle?
Love it. Yeah. I think it's really important to reframe those and tell your brain nothing's gone wrong here. I can tell you how many my confidence struggled.
I should say everything is going wrong.
Everything's
right?
going wrong. You're like, no,
Right.
my entire purpose in life. So my story, the reason that it's so funny, I would never have thought I commit my life to the study of confidence. Externally, I was always the most confident person you would have known through high school, but I was desperately insecure on the outside because all of my confidence was based in external achievements and I had not done the inner work. And so I was on the track to swim in the Olympics, and I was setting national records, and I was in magazines, and I had a lot of attention, and that was a lot of pressure. And then when I didn't, news alert, was not an Olympian, I became a shell of a person. And so, right, the plan that I was so confident in didn't happen, which means, like I went into a whole spiral of like, who do I think I am? I can't trust myself. Why set goals? I mean, yeah, you can go. But when I reframed it 20 years later, nothing went wrong there. Nothing's gone wrong, or you could panic you can put that in any point. But yeah, I wanted to share one of my deepest disappointments that shook my confidence. And you can, in looking back at it, go, as long as I grow from it, I'm good. And if the whole point is for me to grow, and I'm open to it not looking exactly how I think it's going to look, then I can still be confident. And knowing that confidence includes failure. Like, so I started progressively going, I'm open to failure. And now I pursue failure. So there's a difference. I've been like, I'm okay with some failure. I'm like, really,
as long as nobody sees it or knows about it.
Well, even when it's public too, right?
Yeah. I mean, as long as it's sort of dressed up in this box, and then going to, okay, well, that's cool. Well, how would I go next level? Like, I need to be open to it. Now I need to collect failure like trophies, because if I fail epically, then I'm also going to succeed at an epic level. And I think that's how it was sort of, but I only was able to get to that point as I think about failure now in my life and there's some bad failures, y'all, being like, okay, nothing's gone wrong here. I had my whole website crash this week, like the entirety of my business, because of a human error on my side, where GoDaddy was like, are you sure you want to delete this? And I thought I was deleting something else. I said, yes. And they sent another email. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. Anyways, the good news, it's back up and running. The bad news, few hours of my life and wanting to throw up and panic. However, in the moment of that panic, I used that phrase, Trish, nothing's gone wrong here. Of course, I'm like, everything is going wrong. Hundreds of people who are trying to log into my website, who paid to log into my website, cannot go. And I started catastrophizing, but I was able to, it was stressful, but about 1/10 of what it used to be. And I stayed in, if we would talk about, I stayed confident in that moment by going, cool, everything's fixable. I got something to learn here. Don't multitask on big decisions while your daughter's changing in the locker room and like, think you got it all, right? Okay, so there's a consequence to certain things, but hey, I grew from it, so it's good. And so obviously it was fixed. Not everything's fixable, but if you say to yourself, there's nothing wrong here. That this is an opportunity. You can then show up and go, cool. How do I show up as my best right now?
And I like that because how do I show up as my best right now?
For
And
now.
That's
Right
now in this situation.
Yes. Yeah.
That's good.
Nice. I think of because this is my latest hobby that I talk about a little too much during the podcast is I've been going to a jujitsu gym where you literally like you'll roll with other people, and then I end up losing every time. I get choked until I have to tap out every time. But my teacher said, he's like, you either win or you learn. Like there's no alternative, and I really embrace it. I'm like, well, I've been doing a lot of learning lately. But like eventually I'll get to that point, I think, where I can win. But then trying to just embrace that mentality and other things that I do too. Like I've either achieved what I set out to, or I've learned something. But the failure, like just not even using the word, even if we can acknowledge that's what it is, but saying like this is the learning opportunity.
Well, but even in my business, I have a successful event and I can name 99 things that were great. And then like, instead of being like, oh, I didn't do this, but like, I'm like, oh, for next time, like, this is what I'm going to do, or this is like the next level thing that I'm going to commit to, because for me, it's not a comparison thing. It's just about getting better. And so like, even just having the mindset of like, yeah, I killed it, but this is what's next.
Yeah. So you either learn or you learn.
You learn or you learn.
Right.
I love that. I wrote that down. Love it.
All right, so let's talk about Straighten Your Crown. This is your newest book that came out in September. So can you just give us an overview of, here, I'm going to hold it up here for anyone watching. Can you give us an overview of what, you got a few back there too.
Back there. Yeah.
Right. Nice.
The overview is that I realized that I went through so much of my life, and I've had thousands of my students the same, where we kind of we know that God loves us. We know that we're good. We know that we're little snowflakes. And then we're like, yeah, and it's sort of like flat. And it's like, what would happen in a world where you actually believed that like God didn't just love you, he delighted in you, that you weren't just like, yeah, I'm a cool creation, but you're like a masterpiece, and that the ups and downs of your life have beauty in them. And so the book walks through stories where there like how there's beauty and delight being like, I want to delight in my life. I want a life that's to the fullest. I want a life that's effervescent. I don't just want to have a successful business, be a good parent. Like I want to be an example of what's possible. And so I think in order to do that, you've got to look at the past for evidence that, wait, there's been good stuff happening all along, even in the bad stuff, even in my worst nightmare, my darkest moments, there was beauty to pull from it. And then you can look, what it does is it gives you look to the future and you go, I mean, yeah, certainly there's some things I worry about. Like, am I going to put my kid in the right school? But ultimately I know it's going to be good. It gives me confidence in the future because I know that there's going to be beauty in it and I'll be loved in it no matter what.
One quote that just you speaking right now makes me think of for an American author, and it's one of my favorites. I haven't brought this up before in the show, but he says, "We but half express ourselves and are ashamed of the divine idea each of us represents."
That's beautiful.
So yeah, and I read that and I've just kind of clung to that for years. But it's like, yeah, it's like one day, like God had an awesome idea and it was you. And then, but that there's something about like the way we live that kind of like hides that or doesn't understand or acknowledge that. So that just you speaking right now, like made me think of that quote that I've loved and kind of the idea that you get it in the book. I also, your book is specific to a women audience, and I've gotten a bunch out of it too. But I wondered, do you feel like in terms when speaking about delight or speaking about confidence, that there's a specific like need for women to particularly hear that message, or is it kind of equal with men and women, but they need to hear it differently?
I think they need to hear sometimes differently. But I do think there's a more need in women because of the amount of marketing and media and messages that are like fire hosed at us every day of not enoughness, and that our life will be better when we're just 5 pounds less, or we have the next newest thing, or when we look this way, or that, the wrinkles are not there. There's so much inundation of false ideals that are not even real. So there's an undercurrent of pressure. But I will say men men have an interesting relationship with confidence as well. In my private coaching business, I actually work with a lot of men, high achieving CEO men who are leading large amounts of people. But there's this I'm faking it till I make it. And I actually want to talk about my thoughts with somebody. There's how do I show up with more excellence when everybody just looks to me as the guy? Like there's a sort of almost over elevation of men who are confident, who could still want to take their confidence to the next level, but want it to be unshakable, want it to be more bold, want it to be more understanding and flow back into confidence to the women on the team or women who work with them. So, but by all means, I believe it's a both gender, across the board thing. For women, everywhere we turn says we get told we're not enough.
Yeah. I mean, even just looking in the table of contents from the chapter titles, there are so many things that just resonate, even just from the titles. So everyone starts with discovering delight, but in the quiet places, in the dark places, in being seen. And I think that one's huge, where depending on where you are, like if you're in motherhood and all of that, a lot of what you do is unseen. So knowing that you're seen and that your voice is heard, that makes a difference in who you perceive yourself to be and the confidence you have to be something greater, that it's not in just these dark and quiet places that you're seen, but that you can be seen. But even through disappointment, in the unknown, through doing less, which is a huge struggle for me.
That's a big no in our house.
Yes. Like
that's my biggest growth area.
Yes. It's always more, it's never less. So even just taking delight in pulling back, and in being present and just kind of taking it all in. And so I think there's a lot in what you've written that really has to do with confidence, but even the delight and the joy that you get in all of the pieces of your life.
Yeah. How to live a beautiful life with your head held high and your confidence is your certainty in who God made you to be and in the fact that you matter. And as you said, just like there's so much that's unseen, so many reasons we can be like, nobody cares. I mean, there's so many places we can go into self-pity. One of my favorite quotes is from Joyce Meyer. And she said that you can either be pitiful or you can be powerful, but you cannot be both. Mm-hmm. And it's so convicting because I cannot tell you how many thoughts I've had in my past, decades of thoughts of self-pity. This is hard. Nobody understands me. I don't get it. I can't get ahead. Why can't I get more social media followers? I mean, so much self-pity. And you're like, is that helpful? Is there an upside to that? Because for some reason I think there is, but there is not. So how do I shift into a place of power?
Yeah, we tell our kids actually, like when they're doing sports or like they swing the bat and they miss the ball and then they cry. I'm like, are you going to cry or are you going to try? And
I like that one
too. they're like, I'm going to cry. I'm like, no. You're supposed to try. You're supposed to try. Let's try again. I'll pitch you.
I love it. That's a great adage.
All right. So tell us if folks who are listening are interested, where can they find your book and where can they find more about and connect with you?
Absolutely. So the book, best place to get it, go straight to Amazon and you can type in Straighten Your Crown book and it should pull up, or I have a pretty link. If you can remember my name, trishblackwell.com/crown. It will take you right to that Amazon link itself. But yeah, and if you want to find out more and hang out with me more and do more work on your confidence and you love podcasts, which you obviously already do, you can listen to the Confidence Podcast. We drop new episodes every Tuesday.
Excellent. Thanks so much for joining us on the show today, Trish. We've learned a lot in our conversation together and we look forward to staying connected and learning more from you.
Likewise. Thank you.
Yeah. Have a good day. Well, we hope you enjoyed that interview with Trish Blackwell. One of our favorite things on the podcast is to interview people who are experts in a certain field or domain.
Yeah, they just know so much about what they're talking about.
Yeah. And just the joy and life that she has when she speaks is amazing. And so it was so great to hear about confidence. So let's kind of go right into takeaways in terms of what we pulled. You might have some more. But what I really loved was in her definition of confidence, she said, it's a thought pattern in which you decide you are enough. And I think that's critical. Do we know that we're enough as we are?
Well, as you heard my reaction in the conversation, like I was already thinking of like step 2, like, my confidence as it relates to my performance somewhere. And that's certainly a piece of it. But before you get that far, even just thinking like, who are you confident in who you are? And that's that itself can be a journey.
Right. She says, my job today is to show up as Trish Blackwell. And she says that we should put our name in there too. My job today is to show up as and to be Rosanna Catapano. So like, if you're listening to the podcast, then we have to think about like, so who is that? Like, have we done the work to know who we are and that we are complete and whole as individuals?
Well, that gets to one of my takeaways too, where she talked about being a friend to yourself. And even like when we talked about affirmations, like talking to yourself in a way that a friend would. I used to, when I would practice piano, I got old enough at a certain point to be like, okay, like I just played this piece that I've been practicing. What would my teacher tell me I would need to work on? And just like by putting myself outside of myself into someone else talking to myself, then I was able to kind of predict and make those improvements on my own. And that's one of the things I thought of when she was talking about that too, like just step outside of yourself and in a third person kind of way, like just like what would someone who loves you tell you or coach you in this circumstance or about these thoughts or feelings that you're having. And then starting there really seems like an important or essential part of the process for improving the way you look at yourself and the confidence you have.
Yeah. I think something else that I really took away from it was I am capable regardless of my outcomes. So like my capabilities, I can have confidence in my capabilities and I could be a fabulous mother or a fabulous wedding planner. That isn't necessarily tied to success. Mm-hmm. I don't have to achieve something or earn something. Like I can be confident in my capabilities regardless of the outcomes, because life is going to throw us a series of curveballs. And so it might not go according to plan, but that doesn't mean we can't be confident in who we are and where our talents lie.
Yeah. I felt plenty of setbacks in my own life. And I know we've talked through like either shortcomings or times where things didn't work out. And I like the relationship that she speaks to about like those circumstances or those life lessons or those failures that we have versus the confidence that still remains at the core.
Well, yeah. And I think one of the things that she brought up is, do you know you always belong? Do you know you always have a place? Do you know you are you, regardless of what happens?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's certainly, a lot more that she shared that we connected with and that we hope that you learned from as well. The relationship between affirmations and friendship to yourself, the courage that it takes to be confident, and certainly some of the important aspects of just how we include other voices in our life, maybe our spouse or a significant other, to help balance that. So as you heard during the show, you can feel free to check out trishblackwell.com. You can also find her new book, Straighten Your Crown, by going to Amazon and typing in Straighten Your Crown book. You can also find it at trishblackwell.com/crown. So we hope you enjoyed our conversation with Trish and learned as much as we did from that process.
Yeah, check out her podcast too, the Confidence Podcast. I plugged it in this week while walking, and it was fabulous to listen to, just to retrain your brain about how you talk about yourself and how you move forward confidently. A
lot of great content. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for listening to today's show. We hope you will use this conversation as a starting point for your own. We hope you're encouraged to think and act more intentionally.
If you want to learn more, you can visit our website, therelentlesspursuitpodcast.com, where you can find notes on today's show, plus additional blog posts, and you can subscribe to our free members list.
Please subscribe, leave a review, and share with your friends.
Facebook and Instagram are two great places to connect with us for daily doses of our quotable quotes, behind the scenes, and real-time photos, videos, and challenges.
Until next time, let us know how you are taking life off autopilot
and relentlessly pursuing what matters.